This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. Retirement isn't just about saving, it's about having a strategy that helps you navigate market ups and downs, combat inflation, and secure the future you deserve. That's why Financially Fit Radio is here to tackle your biggest financial concerns, share actionable strategies, and help you move toward your retirement goals with confidence. And now, here's Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. If you have any information or if you have any questions about anything we discuss on today's show, feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit our website at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to check out our radio show or radio page. You can listen to today's show, but you can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Spotify. Also, feel free to watch today's show on our YouTube channel. Just type in Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. You can watch today's previous episodes, and you can also subscribe so you can be kept up to date with all of our short videos that we put out on different types of financial topics, anywhere from about 3 to 5 different types of or shorts on a weekly basis as well. We're here to help and guide you to make sure you have the best retirement that you possibly can. Just remember, any meetings that you do schedule with us, all meetings are complimentary. There's no financial obligation. We're here truly to help to make sure that you have the best retirement that you possibly can. Stress. I think a lot of people have stress about money or things that just happen to do with money. We'll talk about some of that type of stuff and, what things are you stressed about? But more importantly, how do you fix them? But before we dive into that topic today, let me introduce you to my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you?
I am great, doing good this week. A little tired out from the 3-day weekend. I had a 3-day weekend, didn't get much chance to rest, just kept really busy. And so that was fun, though. My daughter graduated from St. Thomas, and she graduated with honors magna cum laude. So we're pretty proud of her.
Yeah. That's a big step.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge step off the payroll. She already has a job lined up, so she'll be off the payroll by fall, which is good.
By fall?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she doesn't.
You're giving her a few months before she starts?
Well, her new job starts September 1st, or the first week of September. So she'll be on the payroll until then, but then she's off the payroll, and we let her know off the payroll. So that'll be 2 off, 1 still on, Cory.
Well, she might be off payroll. The big question is she out of the house?
She will be in October.
That's part of the deal. Just because they have a job, Tony, doesn't always necessarily mean they're out of the house.
Nope, they've already rented her and her roommate that we moved out on Sunday. She graduated Saturday, moved them out of their house they were renting on Sunday or on Monday. And then they're going to move into a new apartment just before she starts her new job. Yeah. So just a few months at home, maybe 3 months, and then she'll probably be out of our lives, which is actually sad. We love having her around, but she won't be far away. She's just her job's in Minneapolis, so she's still here in the cities. So that's good.
So Columbus this week, we had the Memorial Golf Tournament, Jack's tournament. So when this happens, we kind of know that it's officially it's really officially spring, heading right into summer. Anytime we have the golf tournament here in Columbus, I think they got 8 of the top 10 8 out of the top 10 golfers in the world participating this week.
Wow.
So
were you one of them? I assume. I mean,
I am not one of them.
You're a world-class golfer, Cory. We know that. We've heard about the holes in one.
Yeah, I've had some hole-in-ones, but I'm not good enough to get paid.
There you go.
Or I'm not good enough to earn my own paycheck. I guess you could say that.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is a big deal. And that is a sign that spring is fully here and we're headed into summer. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, did you stay busy? I assume you watched the golf tournament. Did you attend or participate at all?
It's this week.
Oh,
So
it's all week. It's this
yeah,
week. Okay.
yeah. The Pro-Am is we're recording this on a Wednesday. So the Pro-Am's today. Tournament starts tomorrow.
Yep.
And then after that, we also have the day after that, we also have qualifying for the U.S. Open for the professionals
Wow.
that did not qualify for that yet. So that's a 36 hole on Monday. So
Wow.
a lot of golf here over the next, over the next week here in Columbus.
Yeah, wow. I guess so. That's really cool.
Yep.
Well, this topic is a good one because, boy, when you say stressed about money, most people raise their hands. I know that your clients don't have to be stressed about money because they have a plan in place.
Right.
So many people are, and I'm glad you're going to give us some ways, some strategies to help us fix that. So, what are we talking about here? How are you
Sure.
defining this stressed about money?
The one thing I would probably would say, Tony, is this: financial stress it's pretty common.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people have it, right?
right.
And even if you have a plan in place, I think you're still going to you could still eventually feel stress, right? Whether
Mhm.
you have debt, might be worried right now about inflation, cost of goods are going up. Hopefully you're not in a situation where you have a job uncertainty, but that could also be a possibility as well. And I think a lot of people are always just worried or fear about retirement, and that it could be is it's coming really fast, or I think a big fear is they know they have to save. They don't think they've done a good enough job saving, and they're just kind of afraid, are they going to be able to retire? And that's where I think that's where having a plan in place, because it's now you're going to lay that blueprint down that's going to show you, are you on track to have the retirement that you want? And I think that's why it's very important to work with an advisor to get that plan in place, because I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of stress. You just will about
Right.
finances, because you might be purchasing things. Should I be buying that? Should I not be buying that? Your washer and dryer goes out. I mean, that's stress. Now you got to go buy a new washer and dryer. Hopefully you have money to be able to pay for it, where you don't increase debt. But here's the one thing I will say is debts. I mean, having a little bit of fear is standard. So I think everyone needs to understand that just because you might be scared a little or fear a little bit about the uncertainty of your finances, it's quite normal, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that obviously it's kind of human nature, and it's the number one cause of stress, especially amongst couples. We've
Sure.
we've heard those stats before, and it really does matter. I mean, it can affect your health. Stressing about not having enough income in retirement's a big one we talk about, or having too much debt. These are very stressful things, but there are solutions, right?
Yeah, but back to your point, Tony, I think there's different types of stress too, right? Um, you might be, I mean, different levels of it. You might have just a little bit of an anxiety, but you
Mhm.
might even also get to a point because you have a lot of issues where maybe you can't sleep. It causes fighting with your partner. And here's another big one: if you don't think you have the money, you're not going to pay your bills,
Right.
or you're going to have to try to do a balancing act in order to try to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And if you have this type of stress, it can turn into chronic stress as well, and that affects a lot of things mentally. It affects the way that you might make financial decisions, and a lot of times what happens is become a lot more emotional about any type of financial decision you make. And anytime you make emotional decisions, they're usually not good.
Yeah, stress leads you to make either hurried or emotional decisions. You're right, especially chronic stress. And again, like you said, it can affect your health and it does affect your decision making. We get over emotional. And that's where you come in as well as a financial advisor that people can lean on so they don't make financial choices that are going to be costly mistakes, right?
I mean, that's exactly right. Um, have an advisor to be able to bounce ideas off, to be able to make sure you make the right decision, I highly recommend.
Yep. Yeah. So
I just had a discussion with a client today. They have a lot of moving parts going on, right? And I don't want to get into the details about all that, but they need to start pulling money out in order to do some things. And the question is where to pull it out from.
Yeah.
Right. So I think by being able to bounce that off of a financial advisor to make sure you're making the correct decision based at least upon the knowledge that we know here as the financial advisor, right? But I think that's going to be able to help you be able to do that. But I think one of the things you really have to kind of determine sometimes, Tony, is what is really the true cause of the stress.
Right. What's the source of the stress specifically? Like,
exactly right.
Is it debt, or is it about running out of income, or not having enough, or living paycheck to paycheck? Where is it coming from? Or just maybe the stress is coming just because they don't understand, or a person might not understand their own situation or where they're at or how much they need, right?
That's exactly right. So one thing I would recommend is if you are feeling a little bit of stress, is write down what you think the cause of that is.
Yeah.
And maybe there's multiple. Maybe you're not making enough money and you have debt, right? But at the end of the day, it's got to be one of the two. One's got to have a higher priority than the other that we could hopefully try to be able to tackle, right?
Yeah.
But if you really don't know what's causing that issue, and it's kind of vague, it's not really going to help you. I think you got to write it down, just like anything that you do. You got to write down what your problem is, and you got to come up with a solution on how to solve that problem.
Yeah, maybe list your top 3 money worries, or worry what you're worried about, the top 3, and then start addressing them, then prioritize. Okay, I've listed 3, but this one really worries me more than the others, and then start there. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Exactly right. I think once you actually kind of identify what your issue is, then you can put a solution in place where you're going to help control that issue.
Yeah.
Right. So it might end up being that say you actually have a debt / maybe income problem. Well, you might have to be able to create a budget and then figure out where all your money's going.
Yeah. The cash flow. Yeah.
Right.
Figure out, what your spending habits are, and, create that budget, that spending plan, so you can see where your money's going, and knowing what comes in and out. I know that's really helped my wife. So we had so much financial stress as individuals and as a couple. And once we started budgeting and looking at that a couple times a month and working with a financial professional, that's when things got better, when we weren't as stressed, because knowledge is power, right?
Yeah, it is. And, matter of fact, Tony, I mean, I'll give everyone a big example here, right? I just kind of went through all of my streaming.
Oh,
what do I actually subscribe to on a monthly basis?
Oh, man.
And then, I had a discussion with my wife about it. I said, when's the last time we used this one? I don't want to sit there and say names.
Yeah.
On which one it is, but when's the last time we actually watched this? Well, I'm going to get rid of it. We can always go back and sign up for it if there's a good show or a streaming show we want to watch onto it.
Right.
But there's so many little things, whether it's that or whether it's the way that maybe you spend money in the morning on, are you stopping and, starting at Starbucks, getting a $7 latte every morning, or what are you? I mean, there's ways to be able to actually see where your money's going and say, do I really need that?
Right.
Right. Maybe you do need your latte every morning, and that's what gets you going. But maybe that's what you want to be able to do. But I think knowing where all that money's coming from and where it's going, that's a very powerful tool. The other part of that is what the other part I think everyone should look at is, do I have an emergency fund? So what causes stress is when your washer and dryer goes out, and you got to go buy another washer and dryer. Now, it'd be nice if you had, just say $5,000 or $6,000 at least in an emergency fund. I recommend 3 to 6 times whatever your monthly budget is. But let's just say you have that $5,000 or $6,000 in there. Washer dryer goes out. My guess is that's $2,000, $2,500 now to replace both those. But now you can use the cash. You don't have to go out and now put it on your credit card, don't pay it off, and you're being charged 20% in interest. So having an emergency fund, I think, is truly is key, right?
Yeah.
The other option,
that's a
go ahead,
huge
Tony.
one. Well,
Yeah.
that's a huge, you bring up emergency funds, and I know it comes up on the show a lot because it is important, especially before you get into retirement, to have that emergency fund built up. Yeah.
Exactly right. And the other side of this is we talked about debt. Well, you might want to put prioritize on where your debt is. You might have multiple credit cards or issues that you're actually having. And you really need to be able to go in and look at who has that highest interest rate. But be able to put a priority on that. Use they call a method like snowball, where you just keep paying. You pay one off, then you go to the next one, you go to the next one, or whatever that might end up being. But when we start talking about creating a budget and putting a priority on how you're going to pay debt off, that's where working with an advisor is going to be able to sit down and kind of put together a plan for you on how to be able to get to that next step. Because with all this stuff going on, you still have to be able to save for retirement. And I think that's why it's so important to include automation in to how you're paying bills. Set up auto pay to be able to make sure that that's being done on a timely basis, right? You want to make sure that you're always saving or contributing to your 401k, making sure you at least put the minimum amount in there that the company's matching. By you doing all these things in an automated, sense on a daily basis or on a paycheck by paycheck basis, you're going to forget about it, and it's just going to happen. You no longer have to worry about paying bills on time or being able to make sure that you're saving for retirement because you don't see it. It's just kind of happening in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's something that you help your clients with, and that people need to work with a financial professional in order to fully understand and make sure it's all part of their overall plan, right? And so you need to reduce anxiety, especially when it comes to your finance. I know when I do this, and since I've done this, I sleep better at night. Honestly, I don't lay awake thinking about bills or debt.
Yeah. And, the one part that's kind of tough with all this is, where are you going to store all this information to be able to give you an idea of, what are my expenses? What is my income? Our clients use our generational vault where they can actually input all their income, all their expenses, all their retirement accounts or savings accounts. So there's one place where you can be able to go in and see that. I mean, it's very important to be able to see on a monthly basis, do I have a positive cash flow?
Yeah.
If you don't have a positive cash flow, then that means you're spending it either out of your retirement savings or you're increasing debt.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to log into a place, put everything in one spot, and be able to see what you have to do in order to lower your debt or whatever you might want to be able to accomplish out of that. So, there's a lot of applications out there, whether you want to use budgeting apps or bank alerts or, spending trackers and all that type stuff. But I love our generational vault.
Yeah.
It's one spot. You can go in there and set all that up, and it's going to give you a good idea of how much money do I have saved? B, what do I look like on a monthly basis based upon my cash flow? Because that's so important.
Yeah. Well, and I think that obviously it is important, and working with somebody like yourself helps, but that generational vault that you offer for the people you work with is fantastic. My wife and I use it. We upload so many things, estate planning, copies of our estate planning documents. It's a secure online portal that you can access and look at your active accounts. I think it's really important to utilize these tools. And I know it's just one of the many tools you provide to people you work with, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's a tool that I consider that a hands-on tool, for our clients, because you input all your information, budgets, all that type of stuff, load documents and things like that. But the nice part is once we have your financial information in there, it's going to be able to sync on a daily basis. So it's going to, if you have a 401k or if you have any type of investments out there, we have the ability to go in and get that daily balance. So you don't have to go in and key that stuff in someplace else on a daily basis or a weekly basis. It's all being done from an automated standpoint. So, it's a great tool to be able to do that. And the other part of this is when you start talking about finances, Tony, finances are emotional.
Yep.
They really are. And, one of the things an advisor does is we take the emotion out of it from your standpoint. It's going to allow you to make better financial decisions, especially when we start talking about your investments, right?
Yeah.
And,
Money is tied to your identity, your security, your upbringing influences your emotions when it comes to finances. There are so many factors and so many things that make it so emotional.
right. It does become so emotional. And, by having it all in one spot, by working with an advisor, you're going to be able to have those regular money check-ins, right? Might be just checking in on how you're doing, how my investment's doing, how's my plan to get out of debt or saving for retirement or whatever your ultimate goal is when we're talking about finances, you're going to be able to get out for that, right? The other side is I think once you go through this process and you get all this type of stuff established, you're going to find out that now that you kind of have a plan, your stress is going to be more minimal. I'm not going to say you're going to be out of stress, but you're not going to worry about it as much because now you actually have a plan or a blueprint of where you see yourself 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I think having that plan is really important. Getting rid of the emotions is important, utilizing the tools. So there are a lot of things we can do to relieve our stress about money, and you've covered a lot of them already. I mean, I think one of the key points though is don't go it alone. Talk about your money situation. Make sure you're talking about it with your partner or spouse,
Sure.
and then make sure you're talking about it with a financial services professional, your planner. And Cory, that's where you come in, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, here's the way I will kind of leave the show today, Tony, is this. Stress doesn't go away by ignoring it. I will say that. A lot of people think if I don't do anything, it'll kind of just go away. Money problems just don't go away. So if you're stressed about money and you don't do anything about it, you're going to be stressed about that tomorrow. And it's probably going to be worse than it was today long term, right? So think about taking small steps in order to accomplish the big things in life. And really the first small step is to schedule a complimentary meeting with us. We're going to be able to sit down with you, figure out, where you are today, where do you want to go? What's the best direction to be able to get you to that path? That's what the ultimate goal is going to be. Just remember, all meetings are complimentary. There's no financial obligation at all. We're here to truly help and make sure that you're going to have the best retirement that you can. So, just give us a call at 614-760-0670 or visit our website at safeharboroh.com. And just remember, you don't have to do this alone. We're here to help you to make sure that you're going to have the best retirement that you possibly can. And the best way to do that is put a plan in place to make sure you're going to follow that blueprint to get you to where you want to get to.
Exactly. And such a great message today. Relieve that stress about money. Get a plan in place. There are so many strategies and aspects to a plan. You can have your own written plan, and there's no charge, no obligation to set up the consultation with you and your team there at Safe Harbor, Cory. So I want to give that number one more time, 614-760-0670. That's 614-760-0670, or go to safeharboroh.com. Great show today, Cory. Listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Cory Sickles.
Thank you for joining us for Financially Fit Radio. Don't head into retirement without a strategy that addresses both income and taxes. For more information, please contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors at 614-760-0670 or visit safeharboroh.com now. Join us again soon for another episode of Financially Fit Radio.
Investment advisory services are offered by Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Investment Advisor. Insurance products and services are offered through Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, an affiliated company. Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any government agency. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.